All right. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Everyone is going to take the time to watch this. My name is Dr. Lema, and today I'm privileged to be with Sophie Mwatha, who's going to introduce herself, what she does. And from there, we are going to also introduce our topic and then go to the depth of the discussion. Sophie, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, I am Sophia Mother. I am a nursing officer working in KNH, Ear, Nose and Throat Department. I work as a nurse there, and at the same time, I interpret for our deaf clients. And at the same time, I work with the two deaf clients in my department, and even in the hospital. And I facilitate the communication so that they are at par with the other workers.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
Uh,
Sophie. And from that brief introduction, now I can see why you are the perfect guest for this topic today. So today we
yeah.
are
Thank
going
you.
to discuss on how best we can live with a person who's having challenges in hearing, a person who has developed hearing loss, whether as a child who was born with hearing loss, that means they are deaf, or as a person who developed hearing loss along the journey of life. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe to start with, starting from the children, how
Mm-hmm.
best can we adjust our lives so that we are able to accommodate these people with hearing loss in our families? How best how what are the some of the life adjustments that we need? For example, it's your spouse who suddenly now has a hearing loss, or it's your child who once knew how to talk and now they've had a hearing loss, or someone you've just gotten a baby, now you're actually having a baby who's deaf. They've never talked, and now you are told that they can actually not hear you.
The first thing you have to do, first of all, you have to understand that the culture of this person who has become deaf, was hearing and has become deaf, the culture has totally changed. From the culture you are adjusted to a different culture now, which is
Yeah.
deaf. The person is not hearing. The
Mm,
way you are talking to this person, maybe, for example, you used to shout. If it's a name, you call somebody, even if somebody is not closer to you. It's in
mm,
another place. Like, for
mm,
example, I'm calling Neema. I'll call Neema. Neema. You are in
mm,
another area. You will hear me. You hear me, and you will come where I am. Now
yeah.
this person has become deaf. We will not
Mm,
hear you from wherever you are. So you have to adjust yourself and know whenever you are communicating to this person, you have to be near this person, and you have
okay.
to be face to face,
Mm,
because the ears of this person has changed from the normal ears to the eyes. This
mm,
person will be checking on you the way you are talking. The eye is the ear of this person. Maybe
okay.
the person has not learned sign language. You know, when they become deaf immediately, they don't know the sign language. But if they
Yes.
were used to talking, they will check your lip, the way you are moving your lips, they
Yeah.
will lip read. So
Mm,
you have to be closer so that this person will read your lips and you know what this person is saying. If
mm,
it is a child, maybe this child was in school, you
mhm.
have to adjust with this child. You have a lot of understanding, because one thing you know that the performance of this child will change. What this
Yeah.
child before, the child was hearing, now has
Mm,
difficulty in hearing, because sometimes it can be completely deaf or
mhm.
maybe partially deaf. If
Mm,
somebody is partially deaf, even hearing well, you will not hear well. So the
mm,
performance will definitely change. And if
mm,
this child of the person, if they learn the sign language,
mm,
they will now starting regrouping themselves with the people whom they are understanding, who they have the same language, the deaf.
ah,
So you will find that they will be disappearing from you and joining the people who are getting them. And these are the
mm,
deaf person. And you, as the person who is staying with this deaf person, and now the
mm,
person has maybe learned sign language, you will
mm.
also you should also have the interest to learn a bit of the sign language, so that you
Yeah.
understand how this person is
Mm,
saying.
mm.
Yeah. Mm.
Okay. Yeah. So I love that the fact you said now is the eyes that have changed to become the ears.
Yes,
So
the eye of this
use
area.
their eyes to try to understand what is happening in the environment as much as that they can. That's very good. Now, when
Mm.
communicating with them, what are the things that we should never do? Because sometimes this, of course, no one wishes to have this in life, but you see, life happens, and usually you accept whatever comes your way. So, what are the things that
Mm-hmm.
we should never be doing to these people as we try to communicate with them? Maybe you can start with
First of
toddlers.
all, uh,
Yeah, yeah.
when you are communicating to this person, you try your best. Don't speak loudly. Don't shout. Just speak the normal space of the language, so that
Mm,
your lips does not move the way they are not supposed to be, so that these people can understand what you are saying. When you are communicating to them,
mm,
just maintain the contact, the eye contact between you and this person, because this
okay.
person is. If I face maybe on this other side, this
Mm,
you are not. He is not hearing. You
mm,
remember we have said the eyes have become the ear.
yes, yeah.
So if you look down or you move, make different movements, this person will not understand what you are saying. And then
Mm,
again, you don't have to move to make unnecessary movement, because like now, if I make the necessary movement of the hands, and they have
mm,
learned sign language, they may mistake that sign for
mm,
something else. So you have the communication will change to something
yeah,
else. He
yeah.
or she will not understand, because you might mistake that movement with a different sign, and then they
Oh,
might think it is you are communicating, and in the real sense you are not and you are not communicating.
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm. and
So
then
do
and
you,
then when you run maybe the sign language, and you are assigned to this deaf person with signs.
mm,
We are advised that we are not supposed to decorate our hearts. Like now, the way we put bangles, Q-tex, because this person is looking at you, instead of understanding what you are saying, is trying
mm,
to think about those bangles and whatever. So you are
yeah.
supposed to be as simple, just as simple, especially if you are addressing many devs. You be
Mm,
simple, so that don't mistake the communication. If you are talking to many of them, the deaf, let them be in the sitting arrangement also matters, because you
okay.
see they are supposed to focus on you, eye contact. They are supposed
Mm,
all to see you and know how you are, what you are
mm,
saying. That's what I mean.
okay.
Uh,
Wow. Okay. So okay, I'm imagining.
and at the same time, you don't communicate to them in a dark area. Remember, they are supposed to see the sign clearly. If it is
Yeah.
dark, they will not
Mm,
hear what you are saying. So
yeah.
you make sure that the place has got enough right.
Mm. So I'm
Mm.
imagining, do you train people? Like, so is this part of the rehabilitation that is done to people who have actually now developed hearing loss along the way?
Yeah, when you mean to the person who have developed the hearing loss, or to the person who is
The
assisting the
family,
person?
yeah, to the family who live with this person.
If they have interest, there are those services to be taught the sign language. They will be taught. Like in KISA, they teach.
Okay,
eh, If
okay.
you can also source anybody who has sign language, first of all, know that
Mm,
if you have a child who have developed the deafness, and
mm,
maybe has learned the sign language,
mm,
you just learn the basic. I also teach. If somebody comes to me with that interest, just
mm,
teaching the basic sign language is very important. And they are advised to do, the parents of such children, they are
mm,
advised to run the basic sign language, because you can imagine a
mm.
child alone in the house, nobody who
Yeah.
knows the sign language. It is like you, for example, when the TV is on, one day
Mm,
try to do your ears like this. Just close them, kabisa. When the
mm,
TV is on, you will not hear anything. Remember,
yeah.
this child will be like that. You are there talking, all of you laughing, doing what? But he's just like that because he's not hearing what
Yeah.
what you are saying or what the TV is saying. So knowing the basic sign language, you will
Mm,
facilitate even if it is just the basic. This person
mm,
will move together with you, and you know what
mm,
you are talking about. He
mm,
understands that you are not talking about him or her because
mm.
if you talk your stories, you laugh. Sometimes they think you are backbiting them.
Yeah,
So
it is
if you
true
interpret, they know what you are saying,
what you're saying.
and they will not mistake you. Yeah,
Okay. I mean, I think it's a very tough space to be in, especially
yeah,
in a world where most of us really don't think about that because we are not wearing those shoes. So there are so
yeah,
many things that we take for granted because I'm imagining the
yeah.
way our life is so engrossed with TV. I mean, you go into any house, the TV is on, and people just
Mm-hmm.
watch. Most of the programs actually don't have a sign language an interpreter.
Mm,
So you are
mm.
just there not knowing what is happening. And all right,
For
now
example,
I'll.
for example, for example, Neema, I can give you a scenario.
Mm,
In my department, I have told you that I work with the two deaf guys. When I
yes.
was when I went in that department, I met one staff who was deaf. That time I
Mm,
had not learned sign language.
okay.
This deaf guy could come in our tea room when we are taking tea. He just
Mm,
sits like this. You know, we are
mm,
just taking tea while we are talking, laughing, and he just does like this. He is anxious, and then he takes his tea very quickly and he moves out. When I
okay.
learned the sign language, and now I started interpreting and telling him what
Wow.
these other staffs are saying, he became
Mm,
incorporated into us in such a
mm,
way that he could now stay in tea room until maybe we finish our cup of tea at the same
yeah.
time. Before that, he do quickly, and he moves on. Now, when you
Mm,
facilitate the communication and he knows what is going on, he becomes
mm,
part of you and you move
mm,
together
yeah.
and he becomes a normal person and then you
Mm,
move on together. Yes.
wow. That's very encouraging, and it's also a challenge to each one of us to become more sensitive and also empathetic, especially because you see, no one really wishes to have that. But you see, maybe you have an illness or you have
Exactly.
an accident, and then you
Yeah.
can't hear anymore. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Eh,
yeah,
mm,
yeah. It's something I've learned personally. So what are the
mhm,
do's? What do you tell us now when we are communicating? Okay, I've heard you saying about facing each other, lip
mhm,
reading. What are the tips
mhm,
now? For example, now I'm communicating to this person and I don't know sign language because I think most of
mhm,
us really don't know sign language. Maybe I'll also
mhm.
ask you a question maybe after this. So what are the other tips that we need to keep in mind when now we are communicating to this person?
This the person, sometimes most of them are running. So
Okay,
if you have a message that maybe you don't know the sign language, you can write down for them.
okay,
They can
okay,
read and they will understand what you are saying. If it is
okay.
if you want to communicate through telephoning, you cannot
Mm,
telephone the person because the
yeah,
person is not here. You can
exactly.
SMS.
Oh,
If you SMS, they are able to read what you are saying.
mm,
Another
mm,
thing, remember we said lip reading is very important.
yeah.
When you are communicating, you might not even be knowing sign language, but if you communicate to this person through talking and you are facing
Mm,
this person, the person will
mm,
read, and
mm,
even if he or she maybe doesn't understand clearly what you are saying,
mm,
he or she is connected to what you want to say. So
mm,
repeating, writing for them, and then you
mm,
make sure when you are talking, you speak clearly. They will get you what you are saying. But the
mm.
most important thing in a deaf person, it's the reading and the sign language. That is
Oh,
the basic of communication with the deaf.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mm.
and I think I could add for us who are now with like this video that you need to hear, it's important to put captions, something that they can
Yes.
actually read.
Yeah,
Yes.
they can actually read. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Wait. Okay, sorry, my kids are here.
Yeah, it's
Okay, yeah,
okay.
yeah. So now, what about for toddlers? Like now, this is a child who has never been able to communicate. Now they were just learning how to talk, and now boom, they are deaf. How do we communicate with them? Like this is a child who's literally in the stage where they are learning language. You know, they are
Mhm,
learning to talk, they are cooing, they are babbling, maybe one word, and now they are deaf. They can't hear anything. How do we
mhm.
communicate? Yeah.
You still continue communicating to them the way you are communicating, and if you are doing sign, just sign for them, but don't keep quiet for them.
Okay.
If they are toddlers, they will still repeat you and see what you are saying. But as they grow up, now
Mm,
you have to enroll them in a deaf school so that they start learning the sign language, because you are talking, he's just repeating, but he or she is not hearing anything. He's a toddler. They
mm,
have not learned the sign language, because one thing, even if you know the sign language, and
mm,
the baby or the young one has not learned the sign language, you will not understand one another. So
yeah.
as they grow old, they reach the age of enrolling into school. You enroll them in a deaf school so that they start their education. They be taught the sign language, and then
Mm,
the communication starts from there. And then they will adjust and be okay. Mm.
okay.
But
Yeah.
as a parent now, if you have such a child, be prepared in future that you should learn
Mm,
sign language. Yeah.
yes. Yes. Yeah.
Mm.
And I remember even when I was young, when my kids were younger, what we usually advocate is if even as a parent you can be able to teach your children sign language, just as you say, just the basics, so that you are
Yeah.
able to kind of communicate, because sometimes you don't know, will this child, especially these days when we have so many children who have speech delays, speech and language delays. It has become so
Mm-hmm.
common, even when their hearing is actually normal, they are just are not able to speak. Maybe it's autism or any other developmental problem, and you find that the sign language really becomes so handy. And also
Mm.
for parents who, like you say, the deaf, you don't stop communicating just because now your child is deaf. You still continue to
Mm-hmm.
play and engage with him or her, just like the way you do it with any other child. And as Sophia said, when the time to go to school comes, you take them to school, and you also enroll yourself in school so that you're able to learn what your child is being taught, so that you're able to practice and communicate at home. So
But
now,
one thing,
mhm, yes, continue.
I wanted to say, for the young parents, let
Mm,
them not confuse the deafness and the inability to speak well in children. So
yes,
at this point, I just wanted to mention that it is important for the parents to differentiate between deafness and a problem with speech.
yes.
So, as a parent, if we notice there is this norm at an early age, it
Mm,
is
mm,
good to take the child to a ENT department. One thing they are first done, they are first way to need done. It is called Bella for these small children to know if totally they are not hearing or speech is the problem. That one
mm,
will be differentiated there. If it is not hearing, then
mm,
the management will be started early. If it is the problem of speech therapist, this speech therapy is started early. If it is
yeah,
the problem of hearing is dealt with at an early age. That's what I
yeah,
wanted to mention, Neema. Yeah.
yeah. And thank you so much for mentioning that, because I remember we covered that with Isaac last week. Because you
Yeah.
see, I don't know if you how often, now that you brought that up, I don't know how often you find this. Parents who still feel that we need to give time for this child to speak. How is the experience at especially at Kenyatta? How is that experience? A parent notice that my child is not able to speak anything at 1.5 or 2 years, but decides to stay for a whole year or two waiting for this child to speak without actually coming to seek um, any service to know, is it the issue of hearing or is it the issue of speech?
Mm.
How often do you see this at Kenyatta?
You know, sometimes I think some parents outside there, they don't know, they don't have a know-how. And they don't
Okay.
know that the problem can be managed. You know, a parent who has has got who doesn't know this will have a child. The child is not talking and has reached the age of talking, but
Mm,
is just saying like this, and then they go to look for other issues like traditional issues, others muganga wanafikiri mtoto alirogwa. But you
mm,
see, after they have gone, maybe they bring when sometimes it is too late. But sometimes it is good to seek
mm,
advice at an early age. At an early age is good. If you notice the child is not talking, just
mm,
come to our department. Like for Kenyatta, ENT
mm,
department, all those issues are sorted there. You don't need any referral letter. You just come direct. Nowadays we have the audiologists to check on the side of the ears. If the child
mm,
is not hearing, then the necessary management is taken early enough. We have
mm,
a speech therapist. If it is a problem of the speech, the problem is sorted early. And in fact, surprisingly, the children, they come there, they are not talking. They are done the speech therapy, thinking that the child will never speak. The child
mm.
starts speaking. And
Wow.
they are normally very happy. So outside there, maybe if we can reach to as many parents as possible, and
Yeah.
tell them some things are manageable, it can
Mm,
be very good. Yeah. Mm,
mm. Wow.
mm.
Thank you. And I hope anyone who's watching this and you know anyone going through this, it's very important that you tell them if your child is not, I always say, if your child cannot say anything at
Mm.
1 year, please start considering seeking for help at 1 year.
Yeah.
Don't wait for
Yes.
2 or 3 because the earlier
Really
you know, the better the outcomes.
better.
Yes.
Yes.
All
Yeah.
right. And the other thing is now, okay, this child has enrolled in school. Do you, what are the things that you need to consider? Like now, yes, they've come, they've done that hearing, and now, yes, they're deaf. But now you see this child has to go to school. Do they all go to a deaf school? Can they be integrated into a normal school? Maybe we can start with the children first and then we'll talk of the adults later. So, what are the
Well,
things that as a parent I need to consider when considering school for my child?
there is in the government, there
Mm-hmm.
are always officers who are chosen for that. When we discover a child with a certain disability, because all these things we term them as a certain disability in different levels. There are
Yes.
officers who do the school placement. The
Mm-hmm.
school placement is done as per the disability of your child. If it is
Mm,
deaf, they know they are placed in a deaf school. If it is other disability, they know which schools. They
oh,
know which schools. For us, we might not know the schools, but
mm,
the officers from the Ministry of Education, they know the
mm,
different disabilities and they know the schools where the children can be placed. So the
mm.
Ministry of Education is the one who does that. That is their
Okay.
work, to do the school placement for these children.
Okay. And at
Yeah.
Kenyatta, do you have that linkage between now
Yeah.
do you have that linkage between like now your department, the children who have been diagnosed to have deaf, and now you connect them to these officers?
Well, before we used to have one officer who was present in our department who was doing this, but
Mm,
later they withdrew the officer. But when they come to our department, we
mm,
always direct them because the audiology department, they have those, they know where they can refer them for the school placement. They have
oh,
all that contacts. Yeah,
okay. All right.
yeah.
Thank you. That,
Uh,
and I'm sure many people are going to ask about that. Okay. And now what about workspace? Now, okay, I like that because now you're leaving this. For example, now with your colleagues who have the hearing loss, who are deaf,
mhm.
did you do any adjustments in your workspace so that you are able to accommodate them?
There is no adjustment which is ever done because you are supposed to treat this person as a normal person as the other one,
Mm-hmm,
The
mm-hmm.
only thing is that they are supposed to be provided with a sign language interpreter because it is their right. It is
Okay.
their human right to have to understand what the other person who are saying. And
Mm,
as you know, when a person has got maybe disability of the legs and whatever, they are provided with wheelchairs, isn't it? Even the
yeah.
deaf person, what is supposed to be assisted with is the sign language interpreter. So wherever
Mm,
they are supposed to have a sign language interpreter, and that's why you find, like me, I learned the sign language. The sign language. It is the hospital which took me to wherever I learned the sign language in the University of Nairobi. They are the one
oh,
who paid for
mm,
my learning. Why?
mm,
Because there are these, we have the staff who might be
mm,
employed and they are deaf. They are
yeah.
also clients who come who are deaf, and they have a
Mm,
right to know to know what is happening. So they are assisted with sign language interpreter. Yeah.
mm, okay.
Mm.
And so how many of you can actually do the sign language in your department?
In my department,
Yeah.
In my department, let
Mm,
me say, even if they are not experts, but those who can facilitate, at least we
mm,
are three of us can do that. And even
okay.
in the hospital, there are several who can do that.
Okay.
Not
So
not only in my department, but in the whole hospital, they are there.
yeah, there. Okay. So at least
Mm.
in every shift that you're there, that they are working, there has to be at least one of you who's able to communicate and
Yeah. Yeah,
mm,
and in the departments where maybe they get a client and they don't have anybody who can facilitate the communication, we are normally called from our departments because all the departments have our telephone numbers. They normally
mm,
call us and then we work there to do the service.
okay.
Yeah.
Wow,
Mm.
that's very good. I'm actually very impressed because I know one of the biggest challenges that these people face is usually being able to be included in, especially when it comes to career.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it happens in the middle of life, like for example, I'm a doctor and then all of a sudden I'm deaf, then
You
what?
become deaf. Yeah. Mm.
What? You see? But I'm really happy that at least you've been able to. By the way, if you, I don't know if you don't mind, what are their careers? What roles do they do? Is there like computers or is it like accounts or something?
The one there is one who works in the audiology department. He
Wow.
specialized in these hearing modes,
Mm-hmm.
the gadgets for hearings. He's
Yeah.
very expert in that. We have
Mm,
one who is he's a subordinate staff, but
okay.
he help us in the computers and whatever.
Mm,
He knows so many things. And if given a chance
mm,
to further their studies,
mm.
they are very good in many things.
What they do.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm.
Reading somewhere, they usually prefer places where they don't have this one-on-one interaction with people because of that. They use a lot of energy to hear, and the
Mm.
less, yeah. Wow, thank you. This was very helpful, and that brings us to a close. So as we
Yeah.
wind up, um, what is your parting shot?
What I can say is for us who have the advantage of hearing, let us not be having another look to the deaf people thinking that maybe they are disadvantaged, maybe they
Mm,
are abnormal. They are normal people. Treat them the way you treat others,
mm,
incorporate them in everything you do, and then
mm,
you move on. And in that, they don't see as if they are oppressed. They
mm.
find that the community has taken them as other people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank
Mm.
you. Yeah, and for me, what I can say is anyone can turn out to be deaf by the at any point in time
Yeah.
because it can happen. And
Mm.
so let's remember we should include all these people at any point in time. And personally, I've been challenged that at least I think I need to learn some basic sign language because
Yeah.
I've encountered children who don't know who don't hear. And yes, I've had to look for services somewhere. But you see what? If it's just basics, I should be able at least to say, hi, how are you? What is your name?
Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Just the basics. Yeah. So thank you so much.
Mm.
I'm truly honored to have you, and thank you so much for your patience.
And thank you, Neema, for seeing me as a person who can be incorporated in your interview. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. I truly
I
appreciate
look
it.
forward to another one like this. Thank you so much.
Many times, trust me. Asante
Yeah.
sana. Yeah.
Asante sana, Neema. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
But have a beautiful Sunday.
Okay, thank you so much. Have a good one too.
Yeah.